Hi guys, Rubber Toe Assembly here. We'll be building the Bowflex Xtreme 2 SE Home Gym. First thing you want to do is lay everything out, unpack it nice and neat as you see here. And this is the hardware pack that we will be using as we go step by step according to the assembly manual. Alright? Getting right to section 12, the upper lat tower assembly. It will consist of the lat crossbar and the upper lat tower. So you go to your hardware pack and pull the screws for that. That is your number 10. It's labeled. It is the lat crossbar that gets attached to the upper lat tower, just as you see there, laying it down nicely on the cardboard. And it's going to be connected with the two bolts pulled from the hardware pack, which were labeled G, a 3-inch long bolt. It's 3/8. It's a button head screw bolt, and they go through. I run them from the bottom to the top and put the nut and washer on the top side, so when people reach up to grab the bar later on, you have a nice roundy button head instead of a nut and bolt. I believe that's what the instructions say how to do it too. And then you go back to the hardware pack and pull two more bolts for the rear lat cross member, what they call it, part number 9, and it's going to be attached to the upper lat tower too in the back. And they get two larger size bolts. They're about 5 1/4 inches long. They're called J bolts, I call them, because they're labeled J. And they're going to cross through the back side of this, so I kind of lift it up gently and lay it down on the soft side here to attach this, or you could come back later and attach it when it's hung, which is a little bit easier here than to put it all together one big heavy piece and then lift up the big heavy piece and put it on there. But this is why the instructions say is to put this on there. So as you can see there, I'm probably deciding, okay, let's do it the way I do it. So yeah, I will be lifting up the piece I already put together. Yeah, the upper lat tower, and it's going to drop into the lower lat tower. As you see there, it slides down. You have two screw holes on both sides, and it's about 6 or 8 inches slides down in there. And then you could put one of those little screws on each side. It's just one of the little eyes in the where the washer be, if you want to hold it just to make sure it doesn't fall out of there. So anyways, you proceed to install this, the rear lat cross member, with these button head J bolts, I call them, and you run them all the way through as you see there. You just jiggle it a little bit, have it loosely there, fit on, and you put a washer and a nut on the bottom just to hold that, and then wiggle it around until you feel it slide through the hole there. Put another washer and another nut on the end of that. You'll come back and tighten all these up after this. Just put them on loosely, and we can go on to step 13 after that. So this is it hanging. Before I tighten it, I'm probably grabbing a 3/4 inch deep socket ratchet with a 3/4 inch wrench on the other side to tighten those up. Alright, on to section 12.5, which is tightening all these nuts and bolts. Yep. Oh, actually it was a button head, so it's, yeah, the Allen wrench in one end, a button head, and a 3/4 inch ratchet wrench on the other side, and I just tighten these by hand. Everything's still kind of loose. Looks like those top bolts up there where it says Bowflex probably need tightening as well. Yep, as you see there, tightening those up. You could do this when it's on the ground if you want, but like I said, hanging this thing and doing it up in the air just seems a lot easier. If you're a shorter person, then maybe build it on the ground, then two people lift it up and put it on. So on to section 13, the ab crunch station assembly. And you go to your hardware pack, whatever's remaining there, you start grabbing the necessary nuts and bolts which are labeled Q. Those last two Q bolts that didn't go in down below earlier on at the bottom, there was two left over, and this is where they go. And you put a washer on each Q bolt. I'm laying it this way. Actually, the holes I want to match, yeah, there we go, I'm flipping it over. The holes I want to match same direction as the other piece earlier that I put, pulley arm, the left and right pulley arm. I put the little bolt lock towards the back instead of pointing towards front. You can, whichever is more comfortable for you. And I was telling you that when people reach up to do their exercises, I like to have that little secure knob pointing towards the back. So that's why those two holes are facing in that fashion, so they match the other pulley arms down a little bit lower. That's going to be looking smart. So then you tighten those up with again the Allen wrench and the ratchet. I think that's a 3/8 size. So yeah, I just wanted to zip it on there real quick, move things right along. Sometimes the Allen wrench sticks inside. That's pretty common. So tighten those up real quick, and I'm going to attach that in the next step. I will need the lat pulley housing. So section 14 is next, installing the upper lat tower assembly, ab crunch station, and lat pulley. All these things we just put together are going to be all one now. And I put two short screws in the sides to hold this on there. That's the first thing I do. If you put a screw into either one of these holes earlier to hold that top stuff you were doing, then you'll want to remove them, obviously, to put these screws in there. So you put one with a washer on each side. They are little bolts. I and B is the washer. The bolts are labeled I, and you have just enough space in there to put one in loosely. I would hand tighten them as far as you can by hand. Then the lat pulley assembly is going to be screwed on. It has a little plastic thing on the end of that. The bolt that you just see me running through there comes pre-installed with those little pulleys inside of it. It's a double pulley thing in the middle, and then they just get two little bolts on the sides here labeled I, and the washers are labeled B's. Okay, so that's just hand tightened down there for now. Goes into the bottom lat assembly, those two holes. After the top lat assembly is slid down in there, that's what holds it all together, is those four side screws and then that one in the back. There's also a shorty screw there, bolt number I, in the back. You can see just over my right hand. Oh, the hand was covering it, but there it is, towards the back, right there. You can see it's in the center of the back wall there, and that's a little short one. And I leave the bolt that you see there towards the left. My hand's kind of covering it right there, the left where the pulley is. You see those two pulleys right behind my hand there, right there, and the little label number 2, that's where the pulley cords are going to crisscross through the back end of it, coming up in future steps. So on to the next steps. We're 3/4 of the way through, looking good on this great home gym, Bowflex.